Hello everyone, and welcome to this part 4 of this tutorial about how to solve this smart pay challenge of ALC 4.0. So here we are at the last and probably the most interesting part of this tutorial because it is the most difficult part. So step 1, create a smart cursor function with event, field index and fields as parameter. If you already create a type ahead function, rename it smart cursor. So the first thing it is to create this smart cursor. Let's just go where I create mine. It is here. It is asked to create a smart cursor function with event, field index and fields as parameter. So you just have to create it just like that for this first step, and that is after that create enabling smart typing function. No parameter are required. So after that you just have to create this other function just like that also, and that is, and at the end of the UI can interact function, call the enable smart typing function. So at the end of UI can interact, so let's go to UI can interact, just call enable smart typing just like that, and that is for this part. The enable smart typing function should collect all the input fields into an array and use for which to iterate over them with an inline arrow function that takes field, index and fields as parameters. The goal is to iteratively set a keydown event listener on each field in the collection. On each field in the iteration with for which, add a keydown listener with an inline arrow function that takes in an event parameter. The function should call smart input, passing it the event object as event, the index of the given field as index and the collection of the input fields as field. So let's go to my enable smart typing. So it is asked to collect all the input fields. So I just saw people that just collect all fields in the app just like that. It is not really a good thing, even if it is not precise to take just input in the data CCGG just like that. It is something which is supposed to be implicit. So here I just collect this field as it is asked. As you can see here, I just took the inputs in the data CC digit blocks because it is those input whose are useful for this text. It is not need to ask this smart input or smart cursor in the name or in the date input, because as I said to you from the beginning, if you already read all the instruction of this step, you have probably already noticed that these two inputs are not concerned by the workflow of the smart input and smart cursor. By example, when it will be asked to just hide the last value entered by the user after half a second, it is not needed in the name or that input, just in the digit input. After that, we just have to make a for each on all these fields, and in a arrow function with these three parameters, field, index and fields, we just have to add the k up and k down event listener with the smart cursor and smart input as the function that will be called. Step 2, you are going to implement a smarter and more secure credit card number input system with smart input. Ideally, the user credit card number should not be displayed in the open on the app, just like password fields in form. Newly typed digits should only be displayed temporarily for half a second As the user types them, only the last 4 digits are displayed perpetually. As the user types into the card number input fields, our keydown event listener is invoked and it calls smart input with these parameters: event, file index, and files. Implement smart input as below. Smart input will be called for every entry on every input field. You want to proceed only for valid entry and preventing the rest, so that your user can navigate around the fields and delete entry as well. You should allow the tab, shift, backspace, delete, and arrow key, as well as the actual valid input for each type of fields. By example, the credit card field vs the card holder name field vs the expiry date. Every valid new entry for the card number fields should only be displayed for half a second, after which the character should be masked to conceal it from the prying eyes. You can mask character with these characters. So let's go to our smart input function. There is our smart input function. Also, for the card number fields, since you will need the actual value the user enter, not the maxed one in the UE, they should be saved as integer arrays in the right slot in the app state card digit array. This means app state card digits will be an array of arrays corresponding to the value from the 4 card number field. By example, app state card digit 1 should be an array of the integer entered as value for the second card number field. The final thing to do when you have a valid entry on a given field is to make a call to smart cursor with the need parameter so it do its job. So let's go for the smart input function first. Here is our smart input function. The first thing I do in this function, it is to verify if app state card digit is already initialized. If it is not initialized, I must initialize it just like that with an empty array. As you know, this smart input function will be called each time the user make a key down in his keyboard. So I have to grab the field between the 4 in which he is actually typing, just passing the field index just like that. After that, then I need to validate the value entered by the user. So I must know which key is he typing on his keyboard. I just have to grab the key like that in the event, and I must test the value of this key. Here I have just this small reject expression saying that if it is a number, a digit, so prevent the default action of the form, which should have been adding the last character into the values property and updating the UI. So I just have to prevent this default workflow and make my own workflow. What I do here is just that if field value is less than 4, because the user should not enter more than 4 characters in the same field. So if it is true, I just had the last character enter into the value property of this field. Then I must convert this value into an integer and push it into the corresponding line of the array of array card digits. Then I must hide the last character entered by the user into the UI. So how will I handle this? What I do here is very simple. I just take all the values entered by the user in a field and I store this value. After, when this value is well stored, what I do is that I just count the number of characters this value has. Then I just replace this value in the UI by the corresponding number of sharp character, and I just repeat it each time the user enter a new value or a new key into the field. Now let's look at the code. Here I will just set a timeout for half a second as it is asked. Then in a arrow function, what I do is that I just verify if the file index is not 3, because if it is 3, it means that I am in the last of the 4 fields, and it is asked to not hide the value of this last field. So if I am not in the last of the 4 fields, I just have to take the field value and replace it by the value of the field corresponding number of sharp character. Just ignore this part for now. Okay, when the value entered by the user is not a digit, I just come into this else if. Into the else if, what I do is that if the code of the character entered by the user is 8, meaning that it is a backspace, I must be able to delete the value he wants to delete into a field. So if the user type a backspace, I just remove the last character of the value of the field he is typing in, and I should probably remove it from the mask also, just like that. And that is for the smart input function. But as you probably should have noticed it already, this is not the best solution for it. It is just a working solution I made for this challenge, but this kind of code should and must not go into production app. You know, this is a challenge, a competition. It is not asked to us to provide the best solution. It is asked first to provide a working solution. I will never code like that into my regular jobs, but for a competition I can, because my goal is not to provide the best solution but to provide a working solution in order to go forward into the competition. So I just did it like that, but you should probably think about a better solution than that. And if the character typed by the user is not a digit or a backspace, the default workflow of the form will just be applied. It is also said that the finite thing to do when you have a valid entry or on a given field is to make a call to smart cursor with the need parameters so it do its job. I don't have to make any call in my smart input function, because I know that when I make a key down, I will certainly make a key up, which will call my smart cursor. So I don't need to make any call or smart cursor into my smart input function. You are going to implement a smart type ahead system with smart cursor. The input fields in the app all have designated size. All the credit card number fields have their size set to 4. Once a user has typed up to the size of such a field, input focus should move to the next field. By the time smart cursor is called by smart input, the user has entered a valid character into the given field. Depending on what was set as the size attribute for the field, smart cursor should determine if the last entry have been recorded, and if so, it should give input focus to the next field in the sequence after half a second. We want to be smart about this, such that the last field is not trying to set focus on a non-existent field after it. Note that smart cursor should have the following parameter: event, field index, and fields. So let's go to our smart cursor function. The first thing to do is to check if the length of the value of the fields in which the user is typing is already 4, meaning the size of this field. If it is the case, we must then check if the field is not the last one. And if this also is the case, we just have to set the focus into the next field. And that is for the smart crucial function. Let's go now for the step 3 of this part 4. The detect card type function displays a Visa or MasterCard logo depending on the card number entered by the user. For simplicity's sake, our Visa card numbers begin with 4 and MasterCard numbers begin with 5. These are the only supported credit card in the Smart Pay platform. Call detect card type with its smart input. You can decide what the appropriate call location should be, but ideally you want this to be first, after you are sure the new entry is valid. Then only when the user is editing the first credit card input field. Then within the same invocation that is delayed for half a second to max input. So let's go and make this detect card type call. We must verify this condition after you are sure that the new entry is valid. Here in my smart input function, you probably remember that I say that the first thing I do is to check that the card digit property of app state is initialized. Then I must verify if the value entered by the user is a digit. If it is the case, I must verify if the value of this field is less than 4. So if this also is the case, I'm already sure that the value is valid because I'm sure it is composed of a maximum of 4 digits. Then I must verify the second condition only when the user is editing the first credit card input field. So it is what I did just here. I just have to verify if the field index is equal to 0 and if the field value is equal to 4, meaning that the user already entered the fourth character of this field. When it is the case, I just have to take this line of the card digit array into first 4 digits variable. Then I must make this call, detect card type, passing it first 4 digits function. It is also important to make this call of detect card type with this variable first 4 digits as a parameter, because as you already seen it before, Grad is a little rude about this kind of thing. So make sure to just follow the instruction just like that. Okay, now let's move forward. If detect card type detects a Visa card, it should add its Visa to the data credit card div. Else it should remove it and add its MasterCard if it detects a MasterCard. This gives the card a somewhat brand field. To display the right card logo, it should get the source of the data card type image using the data URLs provided in the supported card object. Finally, it needs to return the its Visa or its MasterCard value depending on the type of card detected. So let's go to our detect card function. We just start by making a query selection to get the field and another one to get the image field or node or whatever you want to call it. Then we must check if the first value of first 4 digit is equal to 4. If it is the case, we know that this card is Visa, and if it is not the case, and if the first value of first 4 digit is equal to 5, we know that it is a MasterCard, and we just have to follow the instruction as it is say. It is very simple, as you can see here. Now we are on the last step of this last phase. You will be implementing the Luhn algorithm to validate 16-digit credit card numbers. See here for more details, but follow the instruction below for more clarity and simplicity. Me, what I did is that I just go into this Wikipedia page and I just read about this Luhn algorithm. I'm not sure that I understood everything about it, but I surely understood the algorithm. So I just implemented this algorithm and I move forward. So here is how I implemented this algorithm. The only difference with what it is written here in Wikipedia is in this for loop. I really don't know why here in Wikipedia they make the for loop from 0 to n digit minus 2, because I think it is not right. I think it is minus 1, but I didn't really understand why they did it just like this. Maybe it is just an error, but this is how I implemented it just as it is written in Wikipedia. In this kind of challenge, personally, I don't spend many time in trying to understand this kind of random algorithm which is just given to me, because it is very probable that it is the first and last time I have to use it. So I don't just spend a lot of time trying to understand it. I just use it as it is written online and I move forward. So let's move forward. Implement the validate card number function to validate the card numbers entered by the user. It delegates to the validate with learn function for the actual validation and returns the true or false value it gets from validate with learn. Before returning the outcome of the validation, it should also add or remove the is invalid class to the data.cc digit div depending on the validity of the card number. So here is my validate card number. Recall that validate with learn expect to be called with an array of integers, but we have an array of nested integer arrays in upstate card digits. Use the new .flat array function on upstate card digit and assign the outcome of the call to a digits variable. This is what should be pasted to validate with learn for it to do its job. See flat or flat maps. So you just have to go and see how this flat function work. Here is how I use it. I just apply this flat function to this card digits array and assign the result to digits variable. Then I grab the data.cc digits field. I make this console log field class list just to verify something and or to debug. I don't remember very well. Next, I just call the validate with learn with this digits array as a parameter, and I assign the result to a variables called is valid. If is valid is set and is true, I just have to remove is invalid from the class list of the field, and if it is false, I just have to add is invalid in the class list of this field and return the corresponding value true or false. And that is, we just complete our challenge. We can just test to see if it works as we want it to. So just enter random value just like that. And that is, I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial and you really learn a lot from it. As I said it in the previous video, I really encourage you to ask many questions as possible in the comment section, because I know that I have a lot to learn about how to make a good tutorial yet. So just ask questions in order for me to be able to really help you on what is really important for you, or if there is things that you don't really understand why I just did things like that, not like that, just ask it in the comment section and I will be happy to provide you answers and solution for the issue you faced. Be strengthened and be encouraged in your learning journey. It is not always easy, but with perseverance we will all become great developers in Africa. I hope for it. So see you soon. Bye.